After losing a game of truth or dare, I kissed the guy I'd been secretly in love with for years, and somehow, I gained the ability to hear thoughts. My crush, the one I'd just kissed, sat coldly in the corner afterward, completely silent. But a voice drifted through my head anyway. Her lips are so soft. I need to figure out a way to get her to kiss me again. So there I was at this frat party, squeezed into a VIP booth beside my forever crush, Archer, and of course I picked Dare. Like an idiot, I closed my eyes to draw a card, and the second I pulled it, the whole booth erupted. My best friend Zoe was laughing like she'd just won the lottery. The hand holding the card started to tremble. Ha ha ha, holy, come on, open your eyes, Chloe. Zoe slapped my shoulder, practically vibrating with excitement. I opened my eyes with the grace of someone walking to an execution. The moment I read the card, my hands shook even harder. Kiss the person next to you. There were only two people beside me. One was Zoe. The other was Archer, the guy I'd been crushing on forever. Originally, Archer hadn't been sitting here, but he'd switched seats because he couldn't stand the smell of smoke near the other side of the booth. Now he was right next to me, like the universe was playing a joke. The crowd started chanting and teasing. Zoe was the loudest. Let's be clear, she announced, hands on her hips. Don't even think about kissing me. The second she said that, every head turned toward Archer. The cheering got louder, sharper, like a spotlight snapping on. I clutched the card so tightly it bent. My neck went stiff as I turned to look at him. My palms were sweating so badly I could barely breathe. Archer sat perfectly still. The booth lighting was dim, so I couldn't read his expression. But in all the time I'd known him, we'd barely exchanged 10 words, let alone anything like this. Zoe leaned into my ear, whispering through clenched teeth. Hurry up. Are you really going to waste this? I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But did I dare? Archer seemed to finally register the strange energy in the booth. Slowly, he lifted his gaze and looked at the card in my hand. His face was blank, cool and unreadable. I panicked. Maybe we should skip, I blurted. It's fine. I didn't even finish before Archer cut me off. He raised his eyes to mine, expression flat. I have no objection. The booth exploded. Zoe let out the most unhinged laugh I'd ever heard, like she might actually fall off the seat. With the noise pressing in on me from all sides, I inched closer to Archer. The closer I got, the harder my heart pounded, like it was trying to escape my ribs. When our lips finally met, I felt his breath hitch, just for a second. His lips were warm. Soft. So soft it almost didn't feel real. People on the campus confession page used to talk about Archer's lips, how they looked dangerously kissable. Whoever wrote that hadn't been lying. Maybe it was my nerves, but I felt the corner of his mouth twitch, like he was holding something back. Was he smiling? The rush hit me all at once. Too much. I pulled away after only a moment, retreating so fast I nearly collided with Zoe. That's it. Zoe snatched the card from my hand, eyes wide. It says kiss. It counts. It totally counts. My face burned so hot I thought I might combust. I couldn't even look up. Zoe sighed at me like I was beyond help. It took a full minute for my brain to start working again. And when it did, I realized Archer wasn't next to me anymore. Somehow, while I'd been spiraling internally, he'd moved to the far end of the booth. He sat in the corner again, silent, still, like he'd never moved at all. My anxiety spiked. Why did he move? He's mad. He regrets it. I ruined his night. I was halfway to standing up to apologize when that same familiar voice slid into my ear. She kissed me. Archer's voice. I whipped my head toward him. He was sitting there quietly, face unchanged, not saying a word. For a second I wondered if I'd lost my mind. Then the voice came again, clearer. Her lips were so damn soft. Archer blinked once, slow and controlled, like nothing was happening. I need to figure out a way to get her to kiss me again. I froze so hard I couldn't even blink. Zoe slapped my arm after finishing another round of games. What's wrong with you? Still thinking about the kiss? You're hilarious. I swallowed. Chose my words carefully. Zoe. Did you hear what Archer just said? Archer? Zoe frowned and glanced up. He hasn't said a single word. Then she softened, like she thought I was about to faint. Chloe, babe, just sit for a second, okay? And just like that, she turned back to the game, leaving me stranded in my own head. So it wasn't the room. It was me. While I sat there trying to convince myself I wasn't imagining things, The crowd started cheering again. Come on. Archer's playing this round. Make room. I watched as a guy beside me scooted over. Archer stood up from the corner and, without hesitation, sat right back down next to me. My heart stuttered. And for some reason, the thought from earlier replayed in my head like a warning. Figure out a way to get her to kiss me again. The game restarted. Archer, the genius computer science major, somehow started losing round after round. It didn't make any sense. He usually dominated everything he did without even trying. Each time he lost, he took his punishment without complaint. Sit, laugh, move on. Even his friend Finn looked genuinely confused. Since when are you this bad? Finn demanded. Archer barely shrugged. Bad luck. Keep going. Of course, he lost again. This time, he didn't reach for the usual punishment. His eyes flicked to the deck of dare cards on the table. Finn caught the hint immediately and swept the cards into the center with theatrical flair. All right, let's see what Archer gets. Archer stayed calm, staring down at the cards like he was actually thinking. Then I heard his inner voice again, low and certain. Pick the one with the crease. My gaze snapped to the deck. A crease? Archer took his time, scanning, waiting. Finn nudged him. Hurry up, man. Archer's eyes moved across the cards and finally locked onto one. Something in his shoulders eased, like he found exactly what he wanted. He reached out and tapped the card. This one. Finn flipped it over eagerly, and immediately burst out laughing. Oh wow. No way. No way. Zoe leaned forward, impatient. What is it? Say it. Finn kept grinning, eyes bouncing between me and Archer like he'd just discovered the secret of the universe. Then he finally turned the card around. I leaned in, and my entire body went cold. Kiss the person next to you. In the bottom right corner, barely visible, was a tiny crease. My heart slammed so hard it felt like it shook my bones. Finn elbowed Archer, teasing him. What a coincidence, man. Yeah, Archer said evenly, like this was nothing. Pretty coincidental. He looked at the card, then nodded like he was accepting a normal assignment. And then, after agreeing, he lifted his eyes, straight to me. His gaze was so dark in the dim light it felt bottomless. He held it for a few seconds, steady and unreadable. Then, in that same flat, controlled tone, he asked. Is that okay? My brain went blank. Is that okay? Like he was asking permission to breathe. Zoe's hands flew to her mouth. Her eyes ping-ponged between us twice, then she burst out laughing and physically grabbed my head like I was a bobblehead. Yes. Yes, it's okay. She announced for me. We're law-abiding citizens. We follow the rules. Archer's eyes flicked to Zoe with something that felt like a warning. Then they came back to me. He didn't move. He just waited. Like he was actually going to let me say no. My mouth opened. Nothing came out. And then someone shoved my shoulder from behind, hard enough that my balance snapped. I lurched forward, panic flashing hot. A hand caught me. Strong. Steady. Archer's palm at my waist. And the next second, my lips were on his again. Not a quick peck. Not a stupid dare kiss. This was warm and real and close enough that I could see his lashes, see the tiniest shift in his eyes when he blinked. And then, God help me, his eyes curved at the edges. He was smiling. Just a little. Like this was exactly what he'd wanted. I pulled back so fast I nearly tripped over my own feet, then spun and bolted for the bathroom like the building was on fire. My whole body felt like a fever. Cold water hit my hands, but it didn't matter. The warmth on my mouth wouldn't go away. The memory wouldn't go away. His lips. His breath. That tiny, barely there smile. I stood there for what felt like a century until my heart finally stopped trying to break out of my chest. When I made it back into the booth, the party had shifted into that tired, looser phase where everyone slumped into the couches and half-talked over each other. Finn was squinting at Archer like he'd just discovered a new species. I swear you've been smiling since you started losing, Finn said, suspicious as hell. Archer didn't even look up. Have I? You have, Finn insisted. You're enjoying yourself. That's disgusting. Explain. Archer took another sip of his drink, calm as ever. Then I guess I am. My throat went dry. Because I'd heard his thoughts. Because I knew the truth. And because, as the noise swelled again and people kept moving seats, Archer did something that made my nerves snap tight. He coughed, Just once. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just loud enough for the booth to hear. Then he stood up, walked away from Finn, who was holding a vape and laughing, and sat directly across from me. Finn stared at him, frozen. Dude. What are you doing? Archer didn't blink. Can't stand the smell. Moving. Finn's jaw dropped. You're the one who dragged me here. Archer's face stayed flat. But his thoughts slid into my ear like a confession. Now I'm closer. Good. I almost choked. That night, I didn't sleep. I climbed onto Zoe's bed in our dorm like a raccoon with anxiety and whispered, if someone drinks too much. Can they hallucinate? Zoe, half asleep, rolled over. What kind of hallucinate? Like, I said, voice low, hearing someone talk when they didn't. Zoe squinted at me through one eyelid. Who are you hearing? I swallowed. Archer. Zoe stared at me for 1 second. Then she turned her back to me and sighed like I was her full-time job. Chloe, she mumbled, already drifting off, go to sleep. Do you believe me? I whispered. I believe, Zoe said, voice muffled into her pillow, that you should stop living in a romance novel. And then she was out. The next morning, she woke up determined to prove I wasn't losing my mind. Which meant, in Zoe language, she was going to drag me around campus until Archer appeared and see if I heard voices again. We didn't even make it down the stairs before Finn's loud voice echoed across the quad. Bro, are we really going all the way to that dining hall for breakfast? Finn looked like he'd been hit by a bus. Hands in his hoodie pocket. Eyes half dead. That place is literally across campus, he complained. It's like a pilgrimage. Archer's gaze flicked past him, brief, casual, and landed somewhere behind us, toward the girls' dorms. Then he spoke, calm as ever. It's worth it. Finn blinked. Because? Archer didn't even hesitate. The food's better. Zoe and I stopped in our tracks at the same time. Zoe's mouth slowly opened. I heard Archer's thoughts before Finn could respond. Please be here. Zoe grabbed my wrist and yanked me forward like we were storming a castle. Finn, she shouted. What a coincidence. Finn turned, surprised. Zoe? Chloe? Zoe didn't miss a beat. We were just about to go get breakfast too. Want to go together? Finn started to shake his head out of habit, already forming the words no, Archer doesn't. I don't mind, Archer said, cutting him off. Finn's head whipped toward him so fast it almost popped. Since when? Archer's face stayed neutral. Just now. We walked into the dining hall together, and Finn and Zoe immediately split toward their favorite stations like they'd rehearsed it. I lingered behind Archer on purpose. If he got eggs, I got eggs. If he got oatmeal, I got oatmeal. I wasn't proud. I was also not okay. Archer stood at the entrance like he was genuinely thinking. Then I heard it, soft, almost amused. She's matching me. I burned all the way to my ears. I forced my legs to move. I stepped beside him and tried to sound normal. So, what are you getting? Archer lifted his gaze. Haven't decided? Which was such a ridiculous non-answer I almost laughed. I took a step toward the breakfast line anyway. And Archer followed. Not beside me. Behind me. Close enough that I could feel it. We stopped at the same station. He ordered exactly what I ordered. Then he sat down at my table like it was the most natural thing in the world. He didn't say a single word the entire time. But his thoughts kept spilling into me like he couldn't help it. She looks so good like this. She looks so sweet when she's focused. Next time I need a reason to do this again. I stared down at my plate like it might save my life. When we finished, Zoe practically tackled me. Well? She hissed, eyes wild. Did you hear anything? I stared at her. Then I whispered, he called me sweet. Zoe's face did something between horror and pity. She took my shoulders like she was about to stage an intervention. Okay, she said slowly. We're going to the campus health center after class. You're either psychic, or you're clinically obsessed. Either way, I'm not letting you walk around like this. I would have argued, but my phone buzzed. And the second I saw the notification, my heart stopped. A friend request. Not from Instagram. Not from Snapchat. An actual contact request through the university app, linked to student ID. Archer Hale. Computer science. I stared at it so long my eyes went blurry. Zoe leaned in. Who is it? I accepted without breathing. A message came through instantly. Hi. I'm Archer. Finn said you're really good at piano. Could you teach me something simple? I'm not great. My mouth went dry. Piano was my thing. My quiet thing. The one place I didn't feel like a mess. And Archer, the guy who looked like he could do everything without trying, was asking me for help. I agreed before my brain caught up. We met in one of the practice rooms on the music building's second floor, the kind with beige walls and a slightly out-of-tune upright piano that had seen better decades. Archer sat down like he belonged there. He stared at the sheet music with that same calm, unreadable face. Then he placed his hands on the keys in a way that was so wrong I almost laughed out loud. It wasn't even close. My eyebrows shot up. Okay, I said carefully, your fingers can't all be on the same key. Oh, Archer said, expression solemn. He moved them. It got worse. I blinked. That's also not it. Archer looked up at me, completely serious. Like this? He repositioned his hands into something even more ridiculous, like he was trying to lose on purpose. My head started to ache. Then his thought slid into my ear, soft and satisfied. Good. She's going to touch me. I froze. My breath caught. I stared at him. Archer's face didn't change. Not even a twitch. He looked down at the keys again like he was genuinely struggling. Sorry, he said quietly. I'm terrible. It's not your fault, I blurted, too fast, because my brain was short-circuiting. It's fine. Then I realized the obvious solution. I could just adjust his hands. I could just move his fingers into the right position. Which should have been simple. Normal? Except Archer had a reputation. Not the party kind. The untouchable kind. Everyone said he hated being touched. That he flinched when people got too close. That he had this quiet, controlled vibe that made people back off before they even tried. So I swallowed and forced my voice to work. Do you mind, I asked, if I adjust your hands? Just for teaching. Like a little bit of contact. I regretted it instantly. I was already searching for another way to explain when Archer nodded. Okay. Then he lifted his eyes to mine, and his voice dropped softer. I don't mind when it's you. My stomach flipped so hard it felt like free fall. My fingertips touched his. Electric. It wasn't dramatic lightning bolt cliché. It was worse. It was quiet and sharp and went straight through my whole body like my nerves had been waiting for it. Archer looked down at our hands like he was watching something sacred. And then his thought appeared, clear as a bell. Holding hands. My fingers jerked. I stared at him, breath shaking. Archer frowned slightly. What's wrong? You, I almost said you just thought holding hands like a psycho, but I swallowed it back down so hard it hurt. Nothing, I lied. No experience teaching. That's all. Archer's face softened, barely. It's fine. You tell me what to do, and I'll do it. We ran through the simple piece once. Then Archer's fingers stayed on the keys, tapping lightly as if he was thinking. And his thoughts slid into my ear again, satisfied, steady. Now I can invite her to eat with me like it's normal. I turned my head slowly, like my neck was rusted. Right on time, Archer looked up. You taught really well, he said, voice neutral. As thanks. I'll buy you dinner. My brain screamed. Because everything that used to feel like coincidence now felt like a plan. And Archer, this cold, calm guy who never seemed to want anything, suddenly wanted everything near me. A few days later, the sky cracked open and started pouring. I stood in the doorway of my classroom after my last lecture, staring at the rain like it was personal. I didn't have an umbrella. Zoe wasn't there. Most people had already run off, crammed under jackets and backpacks. I was about to resign myself to getting soaked when a thought popped into my head, bright and immediate. It's raining. She's going to get wet. Good. If she doesn't have an umbrella, I can walk her. I snapped my head up. Across the courtyard, Archer was approaching with an umbrella like a character in a movie who was trying to pretend he wasn't in a movie. When I looked at him, he looked at me. His gaze swept down, quick, controlled, then paused when he noticed my empty hands. Relief flickered through his thoughts before his face could admit it. No umbrella. Perfect. He stopped in front of me and tilted the umbrella so most of it covered me. Hey, he said, like he just stumbled upon me on the way to nowhere. What a coincidence. Coincidence? I repeated, brain shorting out. He nodded, come. I was passing by. Want to walk together? I pointed without thinking. Your dorm is the other way. Archer didn't blink. Oh, he said smoothly. This dining hall has better food. I came to buy something. Rain hammered the umbrella overhead, loud and relentless. And my heart kept pace, frantic and stupid. His thoughts chattered right along with it. She's dressed too light. Isn't she cold? The wind is sharp today. I should tell her. Am I being annoying? Probably. I stared sideways at him. His face was blank. Unbothered. Like he wasn't thinking 1,000 tender things every 10 seconds. It didn't stop there. For days, it kept raining. And somehow, miraculously, Archer kept running into me. Always with one umbrella. Always angling it toward me like his shoulder didn't matter. Always close enough that the air between us felt too small. Finally, on the fourth coincidence, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Do you always, I asked, voice tight, just happen to appear right where I am? Archer slowed slightly. He turned his head, looking at me like he was studying my face. Then he asked, calm and careful, you think it's a coincidence too? You don't? I shot back. Archer nodded once, like this was simple. I think, he said, it might be fate. Then his eyes dipped, serious in a way that made my chest hurt. What do you think? I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I was starting to suspect my life had been quietly rearranged. And Archer had been the one moving things. A week later, we were back at the far dining hall again, Archer and Finn, like clockwork. This time Finn wasn't even complaining. He was actually excited. You know what, Finn announced, slapping the table like he discovered a new religion, I finally get why you make us come here. This place is actually good. We should eat here every day. Archer nodded, perfectly calm. We can. Zoe nearly choked on her juice. I sat across from Archer, trying to eat like a normal human, while Finn and Zoe talked about Finn's upcoming birthday, who to invite. They started listing names from Finn's department. Then Finn said one name and Archer's voice cut through the table, flat and immediate. Not him. Finn paused mid-bite. What? Archer didn't look up. Don't invite him. Finn stared. Why? Don't like him, Archer said simply. If he's there, I'm not. Finn blinked like he'd just been slapped. Dude, he hasn't even done anything to you. Archer's eyes lowered. Still don't like him. Finn made a face, confused but weirdly intimidated, and crossed the name off. Then he leaned in, suspicious. You're acting weird, Finn muttered. Like. Weird. Archer's face stayed neutral. But his thoughts came through, sharp with something I'd never heard from him before. He looked at her. I stared down at my food, hands suddenly unsteady. Later, Zoe dug through her contacts and showed me a profile. That's the guy, she said, grim. The one Archer vetoed. I glanced at the name and frowned. I don't even know him. Zoe's eyes narrowed. Yes, you do. I told you. He tried to get your number last semester. You just ignored the entire situation because you were busy being in love with a different man. I opened my mouth. Closed it. Fair. A few days after that, I looked out the classroom window during a break and saw Archer standing outside the building, leaning against the wall like he belonged there. He was holding a small, expensive-looking box. The sun was bright, but his expression was as cool as always. Then his thoughts poured in, warm and restless. How long until class ends? I want to see her. Don't look too eager. How do I give her this without making it obvious? Zoe popped up beside me. Your face is red. It's the sun, I lied instantly. Zoe followed my gaze and squinted. Wait. Is that Archer? Before I could answer, another guy walked into the frame, tall, confident, clearly heading toward the building. Zoe's eyes widened. That's the dude who tried to pursue you. My stomach dropped. Because Archer's posture shifted. Not dramatic. Just deliberate. He pushed off the wall, box in hand, and walked straight toward the guy like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. I couldn't hear the other guy's thoughts, obviously. But I heard Archer's, calm and almost amused. Perfect timing. Archer stopped in front of him. I watched their mouths move through the glass, and then Archer's voice reached me faintly through the window, polite, neutral. What a coincidence. The guy looked confused. Archer didn't wait for him to respond. Are you waiting for someone too? Archer asked, like they were just two dudes chatting. The guy hesitated, then nodded. Yeah. Archer nodded like that settled everything. Me too, he said. That's pretty coincidental. Then Archer's hand turned the gift box lazily, casual as hell. I'm waiting for my girlfriend, he added. My entire body went rigid. Girlfriend? The guy's face changed. You have a girlfriend? Archer's expression stayed perfectly calm. Yes, he said. Then, without even a pause, Chloe. My name. Out loud. The guy's face went dark. Archer glanced at him like he was looking at a weather report. And you? Archer asked mildly. Who are you waiting for? The guy muttered something I couldn't hear, then turned and walked away like his pride was bleeding. Archer's brows lifted slightly, like he just won a quiet game. Then he looked up. Directly at the window. Directly at me. Like he knew I'd been watching the entire thing. I didn't even wait for class to end properly. The second the professor dismissed us, I grabbed my bag and practically sprinted down the stairs. I was moving too fast. My foot caught the edge of the last step. My world tilted. And right before my face met the floor, a hand caught me, steady and sure, pulling me upright like I weighed nothing. Archer exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. You okay? He asked. I nodded too fast. My heart was pounding again, stupid and loud. Archer didn't waste time. He held up the box. This is for you. He flipped it open. Inside was a delicate bracelet, simple but clearly expensive, the kind that looked like it belonged on someone who didn't trip downstairs. I stared at it. You got this for me? Archer's face stayed calm, like he hadn't just called me his girlfriend in public and then caught me like a romance lead. I saw it, he said evenly. Thought it would suit you. And his thoughts whispered, softer. I picked it out. I've been picking it out for a long time. I swallowed hard. And what was that back there? Archer tilted his head slightly. Back where? In front of the building, I said, voice tight. You said you were waiting for your girlfriend. Archer didn't flinch. He just looked at me, steady. Like he was waiting for me to connect the last thread. You were watching, he said, not a question. I should have denied it. But I was tired of pretending. Yes, I admit it. Archer's gaze lowered to my wrist. Slowly, carefully, he took the bracelet out and fastened it around me himself, fingers gentle against my skin. Then he lifted his eyes. And for the first time, his voice wasn't flat. It was quieter. Real. Can I pursue you? He asked. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. Before I could answer, two voices erupted behind us. Oh my God. I turned and saw Finn and Zoe standing there like they'd just walked into the wrong movie. Zoe's jaw was on the ground. Finn looked like his soul had left his body. Then Zoe recovered first, because of course she did. Wait, she shouted, pointing between us. Who's pursuing who? Because this is giving me whiplash. Finn lunged forward like a protective guard dog. Hold on, Chloe, you've been after him this whole time? His eyes narrowed at me like I was an enemy agent. So that's what this is. You've been plotting? I started. Finn slapped a hand to his chest, offended. You've been plotting on my best friend. Archer calmly grabbed Finn by the hoodie and hauled him back like he was moving a chair. Don't scare her, Archer said, voice flat. Finn whipped around. Don't act like you're innocent. You're worse. Zoe let out a laugh so loud it made people turn. Finn jabbed a finger at Archer. The party? The dining hall? The coincidences? You even made me walk across campus for breakfast for days. Archer blinked. You said you liked the food. Finn choked. That's not the point. Zoe leaned into my ear, stage whispering, oh my God. He's been down bad this entire time. My face was burning. Archer looked back at me while Finn and Zoe kept spiraling. He didn't speak. But his thoughts came through, strong, impatient, almost shy. What did she say? I couldn't hear what Finn just said. If she says it again, I'll hear it. I stared at him. Then, because I was apparently reckless now, I stepped closer. Archer, I whispered, voice shaking, I like you too. Archer blinked. Then his brows lifted, just slightly. Around us, the campus was loud, students passing, doors opening, someone laughing too hard. Archer leaned closer. Sorry, he murmured, dead serious. It's noisy. I didn't hear you. I inhaled sharply. I leaned in even more, close enough that I could see his lashes again, close enough that it felt like the world narrowed to just us. I whispered, I've liked you for a long time. And then Archer's mouth was on mine. Not rushed. Not stolen. Warm and steady and somehow gentle even though it made my knees go weak. My brain went white. I heard him smile into the kiss like he couldn't help it. Then he pulled back just enough to speak against my lips, voice low and full of quiet victory. Yeah, Archer murmured. Now I heard it. Later, when Finn finally stopped having a breakdown and Zoe finally stopped cackling, I asked Archer the question that had been haunting me. When did you start noticing me? I asked, fingers laced with his as we walked. Archer tilted his head like he was thinking. Guess. Freshman year? I tried. Archer shook his head. Earlier. Earlier? I blinked. Like. The first day of school? Archer's eyes softened in a way that made my chest ache. Earlier than that, he said. And then he told me something I never would have guessed in a million years. The first piano teacher I ever had, the sweet woman who kept candy in a bowl in the practice room and told me I could cry as long as I kept playing, was Archer's mom. Archer said when we were kids, I used to cry so loudly during lessons that he couldn't concentrate on his homework in the next room. So one day, annoyed, he climbed up to the window to see what kind of brat was making that much noise. And he saw me. A small girl with puffy eyes, shoving candy into my pockets while crying like my heart was breaking. He stared at me for a while. Then he tugged his mom's sleeve and asked what my name was. And for some reason, he decided I was cute. Not just cute. Cute in a way that lodged in his brain and never left. He said he started finding excuses to peek in again, just to see if I'd cried that day. Then he started playing with me. And one day, he noticed a little mark on my wrist, something like a birthmark, something I'd always had. He pointed at it like it was important. See this? He told me, serious in the way only little boys could be. This is my stamp. He said, if you ever get lost, I'll recognize you by this. Then his family moved. Mine moved. Life happened. And we didn't see each other again. For a long time. Archer said his mom tried to comfort him the way adults do, promising, if you study hard and keep practicing, maybe you'll see her again. He didn't believe it because it was a magical promise. He believed it because he believed himself. He said his instincts had always been weirdly strong. He just knew. Even if it took years, even if it took forever, he thought, we'll meet again. And then, freshman year, at a student showcase, he saw my name. Chloe. And he said something in him went perfectly still. Like the waiting had finally ended. That weekend? The party? He admitted it. Calmly. Like it was no big deal. He'd organized it. Because he'd heard a guy from his department was interested in me. Because he wanted to get close to me first. Because he didn't know how to walk up and say, I've been looking for you for years, without sounding insane. So he did it the only way he knew how. He built a situation. He switched seats because of smoke. He made sure I was next to him. He let himself get dared. And when my lips hit his, something in me changed. Something in him did too. After we started dating, I thought he'd stop. I thought once he knew I could hear his thoughts, he'd finally rein it in. I was so naive. If anything, it got worse. We were at another get-together a couple weeks later, same people, same games, same chaos. Finn and Zoe were arguing like siblings. I sat across from Archer, sipping soda, pretending I was fine. Archer glanced at me. His gaze dipped to my mouth for a second. And then his thought popped into my head like a punch. So cute. I want to kiss her. I choked on my drink. Zoe smacked my back. What is wrong with you lately? Archer leaned closer, eyebrows slightly raised, expression honestly confused. Then his thought, quieter, guilty. Did I do it again? I narrowed my eyes at him and whispered, stop. Archer blinked. Stop what? You, I hissed, cheeks burning. Stop thinking loud. Archer looked almost innocent. I'm trying, he said softly. It doesn't always listen. Finn leaned in, suspicious. What are you two whispering about now? More couple nonsense? Zoe groaned. I hate you both. And Archer, Archer just looked at me with that calm face like he wasn't a complete menace. Except I could hear him. Even when he said nothing. Even when he sat there perfectly composed. His thoughts were always reaching for me. Always. One day we were messing around with little craft kits in the student lounge, making stupid handmade trinkets to pass time. I planned to give mine to Zoe because she'd been dramatic about never getting gifts. Archer sat beside me, silent, focused, not saying a word. And his thoughts spilled out anyway. Will she think of me first? If she doesn't. It's fine. It's fine. I stared at him, then shoved my finished piece into his hands without changing my face. Here, I said flatly. For you. Archer's eyes widened, just a little. Like I'd hit him with a surprise. Then his thoughts rushed in, bright and happy. She gave it to me first. I'm happy. If she carved my name into it, that would be perfect. I snatched it back, carved his name into it right there, then handed it to him again. Archer smiled openly then, not even trying to hide it. He held it like it mattered. Then he handed me his, so carefully made it almost made me emotional. On it, he'd carved my nickname in tiny letters. I tried to act cool. I failed. Archer glanced at me like he was reading a book. Why won't she say she likes it? I clenched my jaw. I love it, I said through my teeth. Can you stop being weird and just say things out loud? Archer's mouth curved. He actually laughed. Then he leaned in, kissed me softly, and murmured near my ear, slow and honest. I've liked you for a long time. And the worst part? Even though he said it out loud. Even though I finally didn't have to guess. My heart still did that stupid, runaway thing. Like the first kiss. Like the second. Like every coincidence that wasn't a coincidence at all. He'd liked me for a long time. Out loud. Against my ear. And for one full second, my brain just stopped. Because I'd spent years building Archer into this untouchable myth in my head, cold eyes, perfect grades, zero interest in humans, and now he was standing inches from me in a crowded student lounge like he'd been holding a secret candle this whole time, waiting for the exact moment I finally looked his way. I should have said something smooth. Something flirty. Something that proved I was a functioning adult and not a girl who tripped downstairs and panicked over umbrellas. Instead, my mouth opened and my voice came out small. How long is a long time? Archer's arms were still around me, not tight, not trapping, just there, like he decided this was where his hands belonged and didn't see the point in pretending otherwise. He looked at me with that calm face that always made it seem like nothing ever rattled him. But I could hear the truth humming underneath. Too honest. Too much. Tell her anyway. He exhaled. Since before I had the words for it, he said. My heart did that stupid runaway thing again. I stared at him like he'd switched languages. That's not an answer, I whispered. Archer's mouth curved, barely. It is, he said, like it was obvious. Then he paused, eyes dropping to the little trinket in his hand, my messy carving of his name, and his expression softened so much it made my chest ache. I liked you when you cried at piano lessons, he admitted. I blinked so hard my lashes stuck for a second. What? He blinked back, like he'd just revealed he owned a goldfish, not dropped a bomb on my entire childhood. My mom taught piano, Archer said. When I was little. My throat went dry. The memory hit me like a flash of warm light, beige walls, an upright piano that smelled like old wood, a bowl of candy on a side table, peppermints and butterscotch and those strawberry ones with a wrapper that looked like fruit. A woman with gentle hands who told me I could cry as long as I kept playing. And the weirdest part? I remembered a boy. Not clearly. Just a presence. A shadow at a doorway. Someone peeking in. Someone who made me feel watched even when I was too busy falling apart to care. I swallowed. That was you, I said, voice rough. Archer didn't deny it. He just lifted his gaze, steady. I used to hear you through the wall, he said. I couldn't focus. I got annoyed. So I looked. His thoughts flickered, almost shy. And then I couldn't stop looking. I felt my cheeks heat. I cried a lot, I muttered. I know, Archer said softly, and there was no judgment in it. Just fact. Just memory. Then his eyes dipped to my wrist. The same wrist he'd fastened a bracelet on days ago, the same wrist that still had that little mark I'd never thought twice about. Archer's fingers hovered there, careful, like he was asking permission without speaking. When I didn't pull away, He touched the mark lightly. His thought slid into my head, so gentle it hurt. There you are. I sucked in a breath. And then reality crashed back in around us, because Zoe suddenly appeared like a hurricane in human form. I left you alone for 6 minutes, she hissed, eyes huge. And you're out here getting whisper confessed to like it's a period drama? Finn popped up beside her, still looking traumatized by the concept of Archer being a person. He pointed at Archer like he was accusing him of a crime. Dude, Finn said, voice cracking. You're like a villain. In a romance. Archer blinked, calm. I'm not a villain. You are, Finn insisted. You engineered breakfast. Archer's gaze flicked to Finn, flat and unbothered. You ate the breakfast. Finn made a strangled noise and turned to Zoe like he needed backup. Zoe slapped Finn's shoulder so hard he almost stumbled. Shut up, she said. Then she turned to me, grabbed my face gently in her hands like I was a cat she needed to inspect for injuries and whispered, Are you okay? I nodded, still dizzy. Zoe's eyes narrowed. Blink twice if he's holding you hostage. I'm not, I whispered. Zoe's expression shifted, relief, excitement, and something like awe. Then she burst into a grin so wide it looked painful. Oh my God, she breathed. He's been in love with you. Finn groaned into his hands. This is my personal nightmare. Archer's hand stayed on my wrist, warm and steady, like an anchor. And in my head, his thoughts came again, softer but firm. I want to take her somewhere quiet. I want to talk without them. I want her to know I'm serious. I swallowed, heart fluttering. Can we? I started. Zoe's eyes widened like she'd been summoned by the word can. Yes, she said immediately. You can go. You should go. Please go. Before Finn passes out and ruins this. Finn snapped his head up. I'm fine. Zoe shoved him lightly. You're not fine. You're grieving. Archer didn't argue. He just slid his fingers between mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. Walk with me, he said. Not a question. But not forceful either. Just certain. I let him lead me out of the lounge and into the quiet hallway, away from the noise and the craft kits and Zoe's delighted chaos. For the first time in days, the air felt still. But my head wasn't. Because the second we were alone, Archer's thoughts went bright again, like a curtain lifting. She's holding my hand. She didn't run. She's here. I squeezed his fingers, half to ground myself, half because I wanted to. Archer, I said, and my voice shook despite my best efforts, I need to ask you something. He looked down at me, attentive. Okay. My heart thumped. It was now or never. Because I couldn't keep living like this, hearing everything, carrying it alone, pretending I wasn't. I stopped walking. Archer stopped with me immediately. His hand tightened slightly, protective. Then his thought, careful, cautious. Is she going to say she doesn't want this? I took a breath. No, I blurted, because apparently I couldn't stop myself anymore. I mean no. I'm not. Archer's face didn't change, but the relief in his thoughts came like warmth. Okay. Okay. I swallowed, forced myself to slow down. I have something weird to tell you, I said. Archer nodded once. Tell me. I stared at his face, at how composed he looked, and wondered how I was supposed to explain any of this without sounding insane. So I did it the only way I could. I told the truth. I can hear you, I said quietly. Archer blinked. I rushed on before my courage evaporated. Not your words. Your thoughts. Ever since the dare. Ever since I kissed you. I thought I was hallucinating. I asked Zoe. I asked myself. I tried to ignore it. I can't. I can hear you thinking. Silence. Archer's grip went still. His face stayed calm, too calm, like a computer screen that hadn't loaded yet. Then, slowly, his gaze dropped to my mouth. And his thoughts. Oh. Oh no. She heard everything. I felt my own face explode with heat. Yes, I whispered miserably. Everything. Archer inhaled. He looked up at the ceiling for 1 second like he was recalculating his entire life. Then he looked back at me. Since the first kiss? He asked. I nodded. His throat bobbed as he swallowed. And for the first time since I'd met him, his composure cracked just a little. Not in his face. In the tiny pause before his next breath. Then, in my head, his thoughts came, Fast, mortified, absolutely wrecked. I told her she was sweet. I told her I wanted to kiss her again. I told her about the umbrella. I told her about the breakfast. I told her. Archer's eyes narrowed slightly, not angry, focused. Don't listen right now, he said, suddenly, like he was giving an instruction to a problem set. I blinked. I can't just. Try, he said. His voice was gentle but firm. Like he was asking me to do something hard because he believed I could. I swallowed. I tried. I closed my eyes for half a second and did what I always did when I played piano. I focused on one thing. One sound. One thread. The hum of the lights. My own breathing. The feeling of his hand in mine. And for one small moment, the noise in my head dimmed. When I opened my eyes again, Archer was staring at me like he'd been holding his breath. Did it work? He asked quietly. A little, I admitted. Archer exhaled, relief and dread tangled together. Then his thoughts slowed, careful now, like he was walking across thin ice. I shouldn't have used it like that. I shouldn't have pushed. But I couldn't not. I wanted her near me so badly it made me stupid. My throat tightened. And now that I knew he knew, it hit me how exposed he must feel, how violated it might be, even if he'd never meant to share any of it. I'm sorry, I whispered quickly. I didn't ask for this. I didn't even believe it at first. I tried to pretend it wasn't real. I didn't know what to do. Archer's gaze softened. You didn't do anything wrong, he said. I laughed once, breathless and disbelieving. I literally heard you plotting breakfast. Archer blinked. Then, so faint I almost missed it, his mouth twitched. A laugh. From Archer. It was like seeing a statue move. I did plot breakfast, he admitted calmly. I stared at him. You're not even denying it? No, Archer said. Because it's true. His thoughts slid in, quieter, honest. If I deny it, she'll think I'm ashamed. I'm not. I just didn't want to scare her. I swallowed. How long, I asked again, voice low, have you been doing this? The coincidences. The plans. Archer didn't flinch. He looked at me like he'd already decided he wouldn't lie to me, not even if it made him look unhinged. Since I saw your name at the freshman showcase, he said. My chest tightened. You saw my name, I echoed. Archer nodded once. I recognized it, he said simply. And then I heard someone say a guy in my department wanted your number, he added, voice still even. So I moved first. My heart stuttered. That's why you organized the party, I whispered. Archer's eyes held mine. Yes. His thoughts came, steady, vulnerable. I didn't know how to walk up to you and say I've been waiting. So I built a way to stand next to you. I didn't want anyone else to get there first. The words hit me harder than they should have. Because underneath all the teasing and chaos, underneath Zoe's jokes and Finn's horror, there was something real here. Something patient. Something that had been waiting a long time. I looked down at our hands. Then back up at Archer. So what now? I asked, voice small. Do I just hear you forever? Archer blinked slowly. I don't know, he admitted. Then, quieter, but I'll make it easier for you. I frowned. How? Archer lifted our joined hands slightly, like he was anchoring me again. Rule, he said. I blinked. Rule? Archer nodded, calm. If you tell me to stop thinking loud, I'll try. I snorted despite myself. You said you can't control it. I can practice, Archer said. His thoughts flickered, determined. I'll learn. For her. And, he continued, eyes steady, if something matters, I'll say it out loud. So you don't have to listen in. My chest warmed. But what if I still hear it? I asked. Archer's gaze dipped to my mouth for half a second, then back to my eyes, like he was trying to behave. Then you'll know, he said softly, that I mean it twice. I swallowed hard. Archer, I whispered. He tilted his head. Yeah? I took a breath. I want this, I said. But I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes it's too much. Archer's face didn't change, but something in his eyes softened, like he'd been waiting for me to say exactly that. Tell me when it's too much, he said. His thoughts came, gentle. I don't want to take from her. I want to be chosen. I nodded, throat tight. Then, because I was apparently incapable of being normal now, I asked the question that had been itching at me since the moment he said it. Did you really call me your girlfriend? I asked, voice trembling, just to scare that guy off. Archer blinked once. Partly, he admitted. I stared. Partly? Archer's mouth curved, barely. Mostly, he corrected. Then, like it was the simplest thing in the world, he added, but also because I wanted it to be true. My stomach flipped. His thoughts slid in like a quiet bow. I want to be hers. I want her to be mine. I squeezed his hand so hard my fingers almost hurt. Archer looked down at our hands, and for 1 second, the comm mask slipped enough for me to see the boy underneath, the one who used to peek through a doorway and decide a crying girl was cute enough to remember forever. Then he lifted his eyes again. Can I kiss you? He asked, so careful it made my heart ache. The question, after everything, after all the plotting and the coincidences, hit me harder than the kisses themselves. Because it wasn't a dare. It wasn't an accident. It was him choosing to be gentle. I nodded. Yes, I whispered. Archer leaned in, slow. Warm. Steady. And for once, his thoughts didn't crash into mine like a tidal wave. They came quiet, like he was trying, like he was holding the door open instead of throwing it wide. Mine. So lucky? Be soft. Don't rush. When he pulled back, my forehead hovered close to his, our breaths mixing. He didn't say anything for a beat. Then he spoke, low and honest. I've liked you for a long time, Archer said again. Not because you can hear me. Not because of this weird thing. I swallowed. Then why? I whispered. Archer's eyes held mine. Because you're you, he said simply. And you always have been. Behind us, the hallway echoed with distant laughter, Zoe's, probably, and Finn's dramatic complaining. But in this small, quiet pocket, it felt like the world had finally stopped rearranging itself. Like it had landed where it was supposed to. And for the first time since that stupid dare card turned my life into a mind-reading romance disaster, I didn't feel like I was losing my mind. I felt like I'd found it. Later that night, Zoe sprawled across my bed like she owned it, eating chips and staring at me like I was a science project. So, she said, crunching loudly, you're telling me you can hear his thoughts. I nodded. Zoe's eyes widened again. And he's been obsessed with you. Don't say it like that, I groaned, burying my face in a pillow. Zoe ignored me. Do you know how many girls on this campus would sell their soul for that? I don't want their soul, I muffled. I just want my brain to be quiet. Zoe sat up straighter, suddenly serious. Okay, she said. New plan. I peeked at her. I'm scared. You should be, Zoe said. Because I'm about to be supportive in an aggressive way. I sighed. Zoe. She pointed a chip at me like it was a microphone. You're going to set boundaries, she declared. You're going to tell him when it's too much. And if he's actually a good guy. He is, I said quickly. Zoe's eyes narrowed. If he's actually a good guy, he will respect it. I nodded slowly. Zoe leaned back, satisfied. Also, I want to be clear. If he ever uses this to manipulate you, I will bite him. I snorted. Then, because my life was apparently a sitcom now, my phone buzzed. A message. From Archer. I stared at it. Zoe leaned in so close her hair tickled my cheek. Read it. I opened it. It was one line. Are you overwhelmed right now? I blinked. Then another message popped in right after. You don't have to answer fast. I just want to know. My chest tightened. Because he wasn't pushing. He was checking. He was trying. Zoe watched my face, and her expression softened. Okay, she admitted quietly. That's actually sweet. I typed back with shaking fingers. A little. But I'm okay. Then I added, after a second of courage. Thank you for asking. Archer replied almost immediately. Always. And then, because he was Archer and apparently incapable of being normal, one more message appeared. Also. I'm thinking quietly. I promise. I covered my face with both hands and groaned. Zoe cackled so hard she almost dropped the chip bag. You're done for, she shouted. And somewhere in my head, faint but warm, Archer's thoughts drifted in, gentle, careful, like he was knocking instead of barging. She's smiling. Good. I smiled into my hands anyway. Because even if my life had turned into something ridiculous, something impossible. At least now, I wasn't in it alone.